right. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be with you and to be sharing the stage with Dr. Strohm. Today, over the next half hour together, we'll share with you two important activities that are taking place now, focusing on building the European industry, in the case of QuiC, and for QuTAC, especially here in Germany, the industry. Share a little bit about what we're doing and how this can help expand what you're seeing today at this event into a global endeavor with Europe as the motor, the engine there too. Allow me to start a little bit with QuiC. Who are we as an organization? QuiC is a non-for-profit association founded in 2021, so in the depths of the pandemic, bringing together industry players from Europe to help grow quantum technologies here. The goal is to, A, make quantum technologies, commercial quantum technologies, a durable, lasting endeavor, and to make Europe one of the champions thereof. Over time, the association has grown quite a bit, and if we fast forward to a look today, oops, you see on this slide in a single glimpse a picture of how we are. We have accumulated over the last 2.5 years just over 180 members from across Europe, and you'll see that footprint in a moment. And I think along the frames, as you look around, you might see some logos that you recognize, big research groups, some larger companies, and perhaps logos that are less familiar to you. And those are some of the many different SMEs across Europe that are developing unique quantum solutions and are themselves becoming champions of tomorrow's future, tomorrow's quantum industry. Our distribution, as we think of it, is industry first. We were founded, as I said, with the mission of driving forward commercial solution. So it is natural that for us, about 80% of our members fall in that company category, with the last 20% being research organizations or other associations. And that's an important handshake, where we look to link the development of commercial solutions with the latest development in research, because we appreciate that behind this first wave of outcoming technologies hitting the market, the next wave is already being prepared. And if you look at the companies, you'll see that there's a split between large enterprises who, for the most part, are there to utilize quantum technologies. Others are themselves developing certain solutions. But for many of them, this is a wish to understand how it will impact their business, their sector, and how they can prepare for it. And what you finally see in this pie chart is SMEs. They are the majority of our members. They are the motor, where a lot of the developments are happening today and where we see the future being taken. As we see this sector growing, more and more of these smaller companies today will become mainstream names that you'll see in different industry forums. I mentioned our footprint at the beginning. I didn't lie, so we do have a broad European footprint. What you can see from this image here is the extent, right? As far west as Ireland, Great Britain, and Portugal, as far east as Israel, Greece, and Turkey, north with the Scandinavian countries, and south with all the Mediterranean countries. QuiC is a pan-European association, and that's reflected in the various members we have. Germany, where we are here today, is one of our best represented country with over 40 different members, and another 6 have, in our case, double-digit number of members. So what do our members do together? They focus on some of the biggest topics that are of importance for industry. On the slide that I'm showing here, you see 2 rows. The top row are our work groups, or sorry, our expert groups. So focusing on individual quantum verticals, from computing to communications to sensing to the enabling technologies, those being the very wide array of key technologies to power the first 3. And on the bottom row are our work groups. These are the topics, the themes that are transversal to the individual quantum verticals, but essential for a durable, lasting industry. Things like IP, export, how do we foster more business opportunities, especially in today's ever more challenging world, geopolitically speaking. So there's a lot of areas where industry is coming together to try and forge and prepare that future quantum. A little example of how that actually concretely looks like, I give you two. One is within our work group, Market Trends and Use Cases. Our members have come together, thought very carefully about what are some of the more promising use cases. We are also working right now on a prioritization scheme. It's not always easy to understand where are some of the biggest bang for your buck, the highest value, so to speak. But we've been able to break it down to a top few. And for each of them, we have a long description. What I show here is just the tagline that's at the top. So for our members to really have a good sense of where are some of these early wins and value to be added. At the bottom, I show standardization. It's a topic that's of growing importance, especially for, again, a durable sector. At the same time, there's a question of timing. When is the right time? Already in Europe, there are standardization groups that have been formed with ongoing investigations to prepare for first standards. QuiC is a part of that through our members, bringing awareness and making sure that we can offer a linkage to those standardization efforts. So as we take a step away from these internal activities, and we look at how QuiC is looking to contribute on a European front. We're very proud, very pleased to be part of the coordination and support action of the Quantum Flagship, known as QCATS. And in line with that, also supporting the Commission on a few different activities. I show here three of them in particular. EuroHPC, which is Europe's high-performance computing endeavor, but where quantum computers are being purchased now and will soon be integrated in order to create co-processors. So hybridization of quantum capabilities with classical one, making Europe one of the leading areas where researchers as well as industry can work to try and understand how this hybridization can help their needs. Working with the EIB and EIC for funding of companies. And on the far right-hand side, the semiconductor industry. Many of you, perhaps all of you, have heard of the CHIPS joint undertaking, Europe's big effort to bring semiconductor industry in Europe in full force, big ambition. Quantum is a part of that. And we, QuiC, are working together with our partners, ENIAS, representing the semiconductor industry, to forge linkages between our two communities and help Europe achieve its ambitions when it comes to quantum chips. And on this end, just as a demonstration of some of the value and activities that we hold for our members tomorrow morning, there's a joint matchmaking session between ENIAS members, the semiconductor industry, and QuiC members, the quantum community, as a first step in terms of more broadly merging the two and helping to establish the first stones, the first key pillars of the future European CHIPS undertaking. I'll finish off with this slide. QuiC on the global stage. I talked about internally in Europe, but we've also made considerable stride to make sure that we're connected internationally. We've developed ties with our counterparts, QEDC in the US, QStar in Japan, Quantum Industry Canada. Together, earlier this year, we came together and formed what we call the International Council of Quantum Industry Associations. It gives our members in our different regions the opportunity to speak together and offer a common voice so that we can grow this new technology field. And one of those moments where we were able to come together was at the G7 this year. And so we have more efforts, more undertakings in order to make sure that quantum is able to really successfully expand out of the labs and become some of the key technologies that powers our society. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'm very pleased to pass it over to Dr. Strohm.
So thanks a lot. It's a pleasure for me to convey some information about QuTAC to you. Usually I'm talking about QuiC, but today let's talk about QuTAC. And also it's a pleasure for me, Thierry, to share the stage with you. I think that it's the first time ever that we share the stage. Okay, so let me start. The background of the formation of QuTAC will not come as a surprise to you. So the German industry has recognized that quantum technologies will be important for the industry, also for the development of the country. And that it makes sense to join forces in the pre-competitive area and together answer the questions what this is about and what can we make out of this quantum technology. So that was the background and the motivation for founding the Quantum Technologies and Applications Consortium. Here you see a little bit about the history of QuTech. So in June 2021, a little bit more than 2 years ago, we formed the consortium, and we intend to be the driving force behind the industrialization of quantum technologies in Germany. For us, the economic success is what really counts. So we also do research, but application-oriented research. But in the end, the industrialization and the economic success is what leads us. On the right side, you see the group of companies that are our members. So you see Lufthansa, Deutsche Telekom, and Trumpf. These are the members that later joined QuTech, and all the other members that you see are founding members. So we are 13 members in the moment. Here you see the structure of our activity. So first of all, we have all these administration and organization topics. And then, and this is the heart of our consortium, you see these working groups. The active working groups are on material science, on production and logistics. These are both software application working groups. So in these working groups, we are focusing on application, so it's only software. We also have a working group Quantum System. Quantum Systems also dedicates to hardware and answers the questions about hardware that are important for the realization of our applications. Then we also have a working group on political communication and one about education and collaboration. I would like to go a little bit more into depth. So materials science, we evaluate the applicability of quantum computers for simulating materials. So this can be crystals or molecules in quantum chemistry. And here this group is led by Boehringer Ingelheim, and we already have one paper, published paper. You see the reference here. Then we have this working group about production and logistics, which is focusing on optimization and machine learning. It is led by Siemens, and we also have 2 papers already out. And on the right side, the working group Quantum Systems. In the working group Quantum Systems, it is led by Infineon. We conduct interviews with the quantum computing hardware manufacturers to find out the properties of their hardware. And then we write a resume also about these different companies and platforms and publish these. We also have one paper already about neutral atoms platform, and one about ion trap quantum computers is in the preparation now. What we are also doing is we evaluate use cases. We collect use cases, we evaluate these use cases, and in the end it is via these use cases how we come to the technology. Yeah? So we try out algorithms that are important for our use cases and answer the question, when will these algorithms, given the hardware, bring some advantage to us. These use cases are regularly published on our webpage. If you are interested, I invite you to have a look. Here you see one example use case. Maybe you know that already. This comes from Trumpf. Here the task is you have a large rectangular sheet metal panel, and you want to cut out different parts. And I think it's obvious. I mean, you don't want to waste a lot of material, and then the task is how do you arrange all these different parts in your sheet metal panel in order to minimize the waste. So this is an interesting use case, and this is partially done by hand now. And it is a very challenging problem for computation, And here we think that quantum computers can bring some advantage. We do also political work, political communication in this working group, which is called political communication. For instance, on 14th of June, we called it Politischer Empfang in Berlin, where we presented to the politicians our ideas about how the ecosystem should grow. So you see here the names of the people that were present. There was also a panel discussion. Yeah. We do a lot of communication, also mostly via our webpage. Here you see some interviews which we have taken with experts. We also present our consortium in different events. And that's what I wanted to say regarding QuTAC. And now I think it's a nice opportunity. You have heard about QuIC now, and you have heard about QuTAC. I think it's a nice opportunity to compare these two organizations now. And this is what I try to do in this slide here. You see, I mean, they are pretty complementary. Yeah, both are very important and they fit very good together. You see, QuIC has this European scope, while QuTAC has the German scope. Both are the voice of the industry. QuIC is the voice of the quantum technology industry. QuTAC is more focused. It's about quantum computing applications industry. QuIC has 180 members. Now I learned that it's 182. And almost all of them are companies. You have seen already the diagram from Thierry. In QuTAC we have 13 members, but these are large companies and they cover 40% of DAX market capitalization. So it's a really important subset of German companies. The legal form, QuIC is a German eingetragener Verein, so it has a legal form. And QuTAC is a consortium per cooperation contract. So we have a cooperation contract between these 13 companies. I said already, QuIC covers all quantum technologies, and QuTAC is focused on quantum computing applications. Membership in QuIC is open to all companies which have their headquarters in Europe, and also quantum technologies activities in Europe. And in QuTAC we are more selective, so in the end we try to keep the group small in order to be fast and effective. QuIC goes wide, so we have in QuIC a lot of working groups. We cover a lot of different topics. And QuTAC goes deep, so we really do programming. I mean, we build demonstrators about quantum computing, around quantum computing algorithms. And another important difference is in the QuIC work is based on volunteers, so it's volunteer work, which sometimes is a little bit difficult to motivate the people to contribute. And in the case of QuTAC, it's a little bit easier because there's a certain commitment from the member companies to invest some of their resources. Okay, so that's my last slide. And I think now we are open for questions, I
Exactly.
suppose.
Exactly.
Yes, give them an applause. Great. So we have Diana again in the back. Thank you so much for supporting me with that. Do we have questions for the speakers? Yes, there is one.
Thanks for the nice talk. How well do you see Europe or Germany in particular prepared for the competition with the world, like US, China, whatever?
We start already with the most difficult question. Yeah, so I think when it comes to application companies or so, I think the US is really a very strong competitor. I think this is obvious. And when it comes to China, we don't know. And this is very problematic because we don't really know if we have to fight against the Chinese activities, or if they are behind, maybe we don't have to put that many forces on it. And for that reason, we are organizing currently an activity to find out a little bit more about what is going on in China.
If I can add maybe a little color to that. So I think when you compare Europe to the United States in particular, the US indeed in some sectors have large companies, well endowed, lots of money. They obviously have quite a bit of firepower, financially speaking, in order to be competitive on the global scale. The strengths of Europe, however, are the breadth that we have in terms of the number of companies. We have many of them in Europe, roughly on par with the US. We have per capita, according to a study by not Boston Consulting, but one of the other large consulting firms, the highest number per capita of quantum experts in the world, higher still than the United States. So I think that makes a base and a pool of knowledge that is literally second to none in the world. And I think that's a strength for Europe. And finally, as demonstrated by our two organizations, there's a very big appetite by end users to be present, to be early adopters, and at a minimum at this stage, to be well attuned to what's happening in the quantum sector so that they can benefit from it as soon as it's ready for their particular application. Those two elements could be important strengths and important benefits for Europe, and now it's a matter of capitalizing on those. There are certainly challenges. Funding is a big issue. I mentioned it at the start. And it's something that needs to continue to be looked at and eventually overcome. And then there's going to be challenges for all. Export control, I mentioned it very briefly in my talk. But in an ever more fragmented world, this will have an impact on both sides of the Atlantic. And so how can European companies best prepare themselves and address that issue? This is something that where we work together, and we start by having a conversation between companies. What is the reality? What are some of the solutions we could propose?
Maybe to add on that, we were talking about with Daniel Twitchen before and Bosch about the timeline and applications that need to come out to actually have some proof points. And Daniel said there are 5 years. Like he thinks it's 5 years until we have to have something practical. Do you guys, in the sense of like working with customers, you said there is a lot of engagement. Do you have a timeline where you say until that time we need that and that?
Yeah, so I'll start and pass it over to you. My sense is that the timeline changes based on the applications. Some are much sooner. In quantum communication, as an example, there was recently post-quantum cryptography standardization effort in the US. Many Europeans were actually among the winners. Now it's about implementing them. Some will say this is not a pure quantum solution. It's indeed based on traditional means of encryption, but that are reputed to be resistant against quantum computing attacks. That's happening now, and the transformation is ongoing now. So the timeline for that is now, it's 0. Something that is more profound, bigger, changing your computer apparatus in order to anticipate more capabilities, quantum ones, that has a longer time frame. So I think different companies with different needs have different perspectives on what they're willing to look at. And at QuIC, we've come across the entire spectrum. Some needing solutions now and taking early steps to adopt them. Others, different needs, willing to have a longer bandwidth. But I would say, and coming back to that 5 years, that for many of them, that 2030, psychologically, that's a kind of a marker where between now and the next decade, first signs of concrete implementations are going to be important. And then going into the next decade, building on those.
I can complement this now. So I would say one of the big challenges now in quantum technologies is that we need sustainable funding. Yeah, and you already have heard about quantum winter, and we know that the first investors, in particular in quantum computing, are becoming nervous. Yeah, so we have to control this situation a little bit. And we have learned that when it comes to quantum computer, it will take some time still. And I think here quantum sensing comes into play. way. Yeah, quantum sensing will be faster. We already see some quantum sensors that you can buy. We are still looking for applications. We still have to wait for some other quantum sensors. But I think now the task of these quantum sensors is to give first examples of kind of another quantum advantage, and this will carry us over to the times when the quantum advantage for quantum computers come, hopefully.
Yes. Thank you. Is there any other question? There, Daniel, please.
Yeah, thanks, Thierry. Thanks, Dr. Strohm, for that very interesting overview. And I cannot emphasize enough how important is what you are doing, because getting awareness of that topic and bringing it, in fact, forward. One question, however, I have is, we're talking a lot about market capitalization, and we all in this room understand how technology works, why quantum is important, and what are the do's and don'ts in that market and in the technology development. But when it comes to speaking to so-called deep tech investment venture capitalists, I'm very happy that we have such a great conversation going on next door. Still, there is kind of, I would not call it risk aversity, but let's call it a European view on investment. Is there something that QuiC or QuTAC, how are you discussing this on a European level? Because even on a regional level, you have discussions, you probably remember, but what are the next steps? How can we overcome that last bit of a challenge, that we can have that knowledge per capita, to have it knowledge per capita to capital?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh, if I may again go first. Great question, because you're hitting here on something that is indeed has been highlighted as a weakness today for Europe, but one that can be addressed. What are some of the opportunities? What are some of the possibilities that can be done? We can learn from what's been done elsewhere. Foreign funds in other countries have directly invested in quantum, sometimes even leading investment rounds. Fortunately, here in Europe, we have entities like the European Investment Bank, the European Innovation Council, which are active in quantum, want to continue to support the sector, but we need them to go faster and still bigger, because there is a big gap. The idea of crowding in is quite important, so for that we need the right conditions in order to foster that. And one of the things that we at QuiC have been advocating, taking examples from what's done in other countries, some insurance companies, larger funds that control more money, can gain just a little bit more exposure to deep tech in general, not just quantum, but a number of deep tech. And a slight increased exposure at the levels that we're talking here would make a substantial difference for Europe. So I think as Europe has identified, and this was no sooner than October 4th, Ursula von der Leyen herself identified quantum technologies as being critical for the future of Europe, necessitating more examination. It's only logical to accompany that then with more financial means to support what is going to be an essential part of Europe's future. And that's the type of proposals and ideas that we're putting forward. It's an ongoing conversation. It's not something that happens overnight, but we believe that they can be overcome. It's a matter of not being shy and moving forward promptly on them.
I think when it comes to VCs, this is really a field where QuiC plays an important role. VCs are members of QuiC, and as Thierry said, so there are already talks with the EIB and the EIC to improve the situation that we have. QuTAC, on the other hand, we don't have VCs as members, and venture capital is not really that important topic for us, because we are large companies and we are funding our own activities. So this is really that was the ball for Thierry, let's say in this way.
Thank you, guys. I think we're actually now, it's time to say thank you again. Have an applause for the two of them. Thank you very much for all the good questions.
Thanks a lot.